Let's talk about formatting references for articles. What we're going to use is the publication manual of the American Psychological Association. That's our guide. I like the spiral edition because it lays flat and it's easy to flip back and forth between pages. The library also supplies you with the APA Style Guide to Electronic References. The book you have to buy. The APA manual you have to buy from a bookstore. But the library, on the databases page, you can download the Style Guide to Electronic References, and that will help you with a lot of examples of information that is electronic, how to do the references for those. Want the library databases show me how to do my references correctly? How about those websites that'll generate references for you? Don't rely on those. You could take a peek at them, but they're probably not going to do the references correctly or even close to correctly. It's just very difficult for a computer to do that. Likewise, don't copy the style of the references in an article that you found, even if it's in an APA published journal, because what happens is when you use the APA manual to create your references, that book is designed for people who are preparing drafts of articles for publication. When they go to publication and they get printed, the layout is different. It's a different typeface. It's different margins, the way words are broken, the way things are hyperlinked. It's different in the printed magazine. So don't really follow that style. Follow the style that's in the book. Ask your instructor for help. Ask the Troy Writing Center for help. Let's look at some examples. The first one has several authors. Each name is separated by a comma until we get to the last one. It still has the comma, but then we've got the ampersand before that last one. Got the publication date, the title of the article. It's in sentence case, which means everything gets lowercase except for the first letter of the first word. If it has a subtitle, the first letter of that gets capitalized, like the letter A here. And if there are any proper nouns, those would get capitalized as well. Got the title of the journal, that gets italicized, that gets capitalized. We've got the volume, no issue in this case. I'll get back to that in a moment. We've got the page numbers. This article stated that it had a digital object identifier, or DOI, so we put that at the end of the reference. I said that we don't put the issue number. In this case, the journal in question has what they call continuous pagination. Each issue, the page numbering continues from the one before. This will make more sense when we look at the next example. The author's Durbin, got the publication date, got the title, got a couple of proper nouns in there, so they're capitalized. Title of the magazine, got the volume, the issue, and the page number. In this case, we do put the issue because each issue restarts at page 1. In the last example, 2 authors, so they're separated with the ampersand, publication date, title of the article, title of the journal, the volume, the page numbers, and in this case, the article came from a database, but it didn't have a digital object identifier, so what the APA manual says to do is put some kind of retrieval statement for where you can find the publisher's website for that journal. Not the article, but where can you find that journal online? And usually if you use like the Google search engine, you can find the journal's publishing site online. Let's look at some details for those reference elements. For the author, if you have 1, simply put that. If you have 2, separate them by the ampersand. If you have several, there's going to be a comma between each one, and when you get to the last one, put the ampersand before it. If you have 8 or more authors, what APA says to do is list the first 6, then use an ellipsis, that's that ... and finish it off with the last author that's listed. APA says that last author sometimes has special importance or had a special role in the research, so you want to make sure that he or she gets their name listed. The publication date, the title of the article, that goes in sentence case. The title of the journal gets italicized and it gets capitalized. Put the numbering for the journal and the article. For example, the volume, the issue, the page numbers. The issue is going to vary. If the journal has continuous pagination, don't put the issue. If the journal does not have continuous pagination, you do put the issue number. For articles, either print or electronic, that have a DOI, just put that at the end of the reference. If you've got an article from a database and it doesn't list a DOI, what you want to put is the internet address for the home website for the journal. And again, you can usually find that by looking at Google or something like that. Here's an example for an article that came out of the Psych Articles database. You can look this one up and you can see the article itself. And I'm going to get the information for the reference straight from the article. I want to look at what it looks like. I don't want to just get the information that the database is providing for me. I want to look at the article. I'm going to make sure and get my references correct. So I've got the authors, the date, the title of the article, the title of the journal, the volume, the page numbers. This one had a DOI, so I put that. I make sure and break it before any punctuation, so that dot begins the last line, because APA says to break addresses like that, break them before marks of punctuation. Okay, let's look at some more references. We've got authors separated by commas, the ampersand before the last one, a long title. In there, agaricus, that's the genus, so that's capitalized. The country of Brazil is capitalized. The word biology, that starts the subtitle, so that gets capitalized. We've got the journal title, the volume, the page numbers. In this case, we've got a digital object identifier. We put that at the end. In the next example, we've got the author, the date, the title, the journal title, the volume, the page numbers. Now, we didn't have a DOI for this one, but it came from a database. So APA says, put the words retrieved from, and then put the web address. Don't make it a hyperlink. If you need to break it before a mark of punctuation, like the dot. In the next example, it has a DOI also, but see how the presentation of the DOI is a little different than in the first example? That presentation for the DOI in the first example, that's the style in the APA manual, the slightly older style. In that Guide to Electronic References, slightly a newer supplement, they say, hey, here's a better way of doing it. Go ahead and do it like this. Now, both are equally correct, so don't worry about, oh, I got to get the new thing and I got to make sure and do it like that. It's perfectly fine to use either way. That last example, that's from a journal that I held in my hand. It didn't list a DOI and I didn't get a data from a database, so I simply do a traditional APA style reference. Now, what happens if you ask the database to do your references for you? The answer is bad things. With that first reference, I got that from a database named Academic Search Complete. This is a terribly formatted reference. It's not in Times New Roman, it's not double-spaced, it doesn't have a hanging indent. That's almost always true, and I could sort of forgive that because you know how to lay that out like that. But let's look at the capitalization. It's terrible. Almost all of the words are capitalized. And then the word Journal of Men's Studies, the word of, I don't want that to be capitalized. I'm not sure if I want the issue number. So all those kinds of things would have to be checked and changed by hand. So you're practically better off just doing the reference yourself from the start. The example below it, it's for the same exact article, but from a different database. It's from the ProQuest Central database. Now this one's a real mess. Look at the title of the article. Here we've got a few proper nouns like people's names and titles of books, and those things should be capitalized, but they're not. Again, it's a computer. It doesn't know exactly what to do with it. But then look at the page number. It just lists page 93. It doesn't list the page range. And then it gives you this web address. That's not really the way to do it. The way to do your references is to rely on the APA manual. There's also that supplement that you can get from the library. Count on your instructor for help. If you need help getting the information, that's where the library comes in handy. And if you need assistance in your writing, that's where the Writing Center comes into play.